Hello and welcome to the Final Bell. It's great to have you with us for another week. We are proudly presented by GMHBA. Big thanks to them for their support. I am joined by Meg McDonald, as I am every single week. A very maybe excited, maybe nervous, that feeling, that sense of anticipation before the AFLW season kicks off. Meg, it's great to see you. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling all right, Lingy. Good to be here. Appreciate the listeners will know this will probably come out a day or so later. We've had some flexibility this week because I've had some commitments up in Melbourne as we look to launch the season. Yeah, little Captain's Day. Caught up with the one and only Joel Selwood as part of it, so that was fantastic. We went down in a practice game on the weekend, which is, totally fine. But you sort of reminded that, and it was certainly the sense yesterday at the Captain's Day, that everyone feels the same, but you come off a positive season, leave that behind you, have a fantastic pre-season, everything's, humming, and then you meet opposition and you go, oh, that was a bit ick. That was a bit yuck. But that's what the word practice is for, and we won't be the finished product at round one either. So I think it's good that we're having the podcast on a Wednesday this week. I think the performance cycles, we've moved through it a bit to looking forward. I'm sure that's true of the men as well, as they get over what was, it was a forgettable day all round, Lingy, because I had that feeling after the Pracky game, and we all went to Marvel to, have the mood lifted.
Yeah, and it briefly was.
It did. I'm not going to lie. A couple of the girls went home at halftime. Like, happy days, job done. I didn't. I stuck around for it.
You stuck around for that second half. We are going to talk about that in a second. So about a week and a half until the AFLW season kicks off. Big game here at GMHBA Stadium against the D's. Can't wait for that. We are going to talk about the Cats taking on the Saints. We are going to talk about the Cats taking on the West Coast Eagles. We are going to be joined in the second segment by Tom Stewart. The great Tom Stewart's going to jump in after he finishes training. He's going to come and have a chat with us. But let's go straight to the big breaking news. Yeah. Recording this on a Wednesday has been a little fortuitous for us. We got to find out, as all Cats fans did, it's sad, but also a celebration of an outstanding career, one that's not yet over. It's going to happen at the end of the season. But the great Zach Tuohy is going to hang up the boots after an incredible contribution to the game, great football, a career 120 games at the Blues, so far 166 at the Cats, including being a premiership player and bringing such quality, such commitment and dedication to move himself all the way over the other side of the world to play this game that I know there'd been trailblazers, the great Jim Steins being one of them, but it was a very foreign game to the game that he played. And he has played this game so very, very well.
How good is he? And he's one of those people, I feel we've had a few, we're lucky to have so many at this club, who you sort of fall over yourself trying to express and compliment who they are as people and what they're like. We're recording this pod in the footy department, and I feel like pointing just out that door to speak about what he's like in the corridors. And there's no doubt, as you say, there were pioneers before him, but what he's done at this football club in particular for Irish players, and we now have 7 on the list in total, is hugely significant, let alone how awesome it is to watch him play footy. I just... his strength, the way he stands and spins in a contest, the way he launches, and, at the same time, he's one of those players for us who is really adaptable, really multidimensional, can play in a host of different positions across the ground, and we've lent on that recently as much as throughout his time here.
I still remember when there was the first whispers of, we might get Zach Tuohy from the Blues, and my dad rang me and goes, there's no way in hell Carlton will let that bloke go.
Yeah, how interesting.
It'd be ridiculous. I love it. And Dad is always, even when he was at Carlton, was a huge fan. He said, there is no chance that's going to happen because the Blues will not let him go.
Yeah.
Well, lucky for us, that opportunity did present, and he joined the Cats. And as you said, I got to jump in too. He was one of the originals on this podcast as well.
Oh, yes, of course.
Many listeners would remember, the great Reg on this podcast did a wonderful job as well.
You know where Reg, the nickname, comes from?
Oh,
he has told hilarious.
Me. He has told me, and I can't remember.
It's Reginald, like the Harry Potter character, because he looks like that.
Yeah.
Lance's Reginald. What's his name? I should know this. I was once a big fan.
I'm a huge fan of Harry
Anyway,
Potter.
maybe we'll get that up on the actor that plays him in the Ministry of Magic.
Yep. Can we get the side by side? Reginald Catamol is the.
Hang on.
I'm showing how much I love Harry Potter.
Here we go.
Oh,
we can get the side by side.
Yes, please do.
Brilliant.
Please
it's absolutely brilliant.
I've gone red now, more red than I normally am. But
That's right. We're on the chair for it. Just bringing out all the skin tones, aren't these?
I think I have read every Harry Potter book about 6 or 7 times. So there we go.
Honestly,
a total Harry Potter nerd.
Again, who knew how similar we were?
Congratulations to Zach. Like Tom Hawkins, it is not yet done. It's going to happen at the end of the season. It's not effective immediately, but when that time comes, he will be celebrated for a brilliant career, celebrated for everything that he deserves, but he'll be missed as well. That character and that joy and that work ethic and everything that he, as you said, Meg, brought to the table and brought to the football club. It's a big hole. And when you add in a big Tom Hawkins hole as well, that list just starts taking a bit of a different shape as we head into 2025.
Do we have to think about that one
Okay.
yet? No, I think what I will say is that is true, but we've seen people that are coming in to take their place in the rise of even Oisin Mullen, if we're talking about Irish for Irish, different skill sets, same strength, no doubt. But he did a role on the weekend, so there are some emerging players as well. But there's one thing to sort of do as they do on the field, but to continue their legacy off the field will be a challenge for all of them. But they've certainly had great inductions under those players.
If you can't tell by me starting to refer to 2025 and all of that, is not a way of deflecting for the rest of the season. It's just trying to extend the amount of time we talk about Zach as opposed to having to talk about Saturday night.
Oh, okay, of course, sorry.
But let's go there. Unfortunately, at half-time, quite relaxing, quite a wonderful game of football. The Cats 6 goals up or thereabouts over the Saints. And then it turned a little pear-shaped.
It felt like more at half-time, I think, because the Saints got close-ish in the second and then we kicked away again. And I think it was noted in the post-match that we felt it was well and truly a Cats game at half-time. But as you're about to say, that changed quick.
Well, if you just go through the raw numbers, they kicked 13 goals to our 5 after half-time. And it's a St Kilda team that I think we've seen throughout the season has got that upward swing about them. They're not going to play finals, and they were quite on record, and I quite like the attitude of, we're not going to play finals, but we're going to have a say in finals and where teams finish. And that's the right attitude to have as you're trying to build your team. It's an improving team, but its second half football, St Kilda's, was dynamite. It was ballistic ball use. It was hard in the contest. Jack Steele, I thought, was absolutely superb in his performance. Now, Cats fans listening to this will be saying, yeah, that's all well and good, saying St Kilda played really, really well, but shouldn't we be able to stop that? Shouldn't we're a better team, therefore don't let them play like that. And unfortunately, there were times where it felt we didn't have the answers.
I'll cast myself in the role of Cats fan when it comes to that definition, because I was looking at it going, how can we not stop, at least stem the bleeding a little bit? It got to the point, and, perhaps you should have been addressing the boys at halftime, because I remember when we discussed the game last week, you were talking about the importance of the half-forward pressure and chasing, and we certainly got that right early, but it got to the point in the second half where I was thinking, let's not take the ball forward, because it's coming back at a rate of knots and going through the big sticks. When you're not getting the contest you need or winning contests ahead of the ball, and you're turning it over on your half-forward line, they were unstoppable. And
unfortunately, we weren't even halving them, which was the problem. The ability to just get it in there and go, okay, it's going to sit in there for a little while, as opposed to coming back out like lightning. That was the hard thing to stop. I thought in a game like that, it's hard to get too many positives out of it.
Yeah.
And no doubt Geelong fans feel the same way. Jack Bowes, I thought, took a big step forward with the quality of his performance. I thought Lawson Humphries again took another step forward with the quality of his performance. I thought Sean Manor again was really busy. And I'm reeling off players who are younger players or newer players to the team. And in Jack Bowes' case, newer to a role through the middle of the ground. I thought they really just said, hang on, I'll put my hand up in this. This isn't going to plan. I'm going to play the right way. that's pleasing on a really bad night, granted, but it's really pleasing to go, okay, now as we try and launch into September, those players are clearly driving the standards of the group.
They certainly are. I love the word you used about Sean Manor, busy. You know, he really gets to work. And there's one thing I think we spoke last week about the translation from playing as a midfield forward in VFL and other leagues before that to playing the role as a half forward. Now he is going into the middle at times, but no matter, he's made his AFL debut this year, his first time in the elite level, but the polish of someone who's played top level football for a long time really shines through with him. I think his finishing abilities, just a great comfort when you're watching the footy. And Lawson's first half numbers were absolutely off the charts. I mean, to be, I don't know whether you call that, or that sort of that quarterback, I'm setting up the play, winning the ball back off his own, but I think he had 7 intercepts in the first half or something. Oh, Cats fans will correct me. It was something along those lines. So he's not just getting given the ball; he's winning his own ball, and then his use has been noted since his first game. So positives.
Positives. We are searching for positives, of course. We understand the result was certainly not what we wanted. The Bendigo Banks Meet the Moment nominees that we do every single time we're on the podcast. Jump on the website, jump on the social media channels to vote for those. I'm thinking Jake Kolodjasny is almost a runaway. I'm not allowed to say winner, am I? But would be a huge chance for this one. Maybe Absolutely. Jack Henry was involved in some really important moments.
I think they've gone out those 2 moments. And, I mean, when you're coughing, 13 second half goals, it's tough to get around the defenders. But it's tough to be a defender in those circumstances when the ball's coming in that hot. And those guys have had great seasons and gave it a crack on the weekend as well.
Just on a side note, just pumping up the defenders here, Jack Henry and Zach Guthrie, the new re-signings.
Love this for the Cats. In some incredibly solid hands, the future of the club, and particularly behind the ball. So I think we've noted how great Zach's start to the year was, and he's continued with that form and perennially. A better pronunciation of the word. Underrated Jack Henry, I think. Certainly not internally. I think they war over what part of the ground they'd like him to play in, but he's just been super consistent in recent weeks, and it seems a foregone conclusion that those kinds of players will play because they're so much a part of. They're so valued and they're so much a part of the fabric of the club. And both their brothers play here. They're from the region or Geelong itself. But a great relief nonetheless for them to actually sign on. Absolutely,
it is. Obviously, we're going to move on reasonably quickly from this one. It was not a great night at Marvel Stadium, but I'm keen to have a bit of a break because I want to get Tommy Stewart in, who's, I reckon, not far off walking off the track, and then we'll look ahead to the big game this week against West Coast, which I understand on paper should look pretty simple, but we'll have a close look at that, and we'll look to maybe heading into September as well. Just the little things that we need to look for. We'll be back in a second.
GMHBA is Geelong's own not-for-profit health insurer who has been caring for the Geelong community for 90 years and is a proud sponsor of the mighty Geelong Cats.
Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on To the Final Bell, brought to you by GMHBA. We are very, very fortunate to have one of the Cats' very best players, Tom Stewart, joining us. Hello, Stewie.
Lingy, Meg, how are we?
Good, Stewie. Yourself?
I'm fantastic. This is always my favourite thing to do, speak, so can't wait.
Well, we are going to let you not speak so much about yourself, Stewie. We're going to talk about the fact that the news that's just broken to all the Cats fans out there is the retirement at the end of the season of Zach Tuohy, who I know is a great mate of yours and obviously a loved teammate of yours. Tell us, when he broke the news to you or to the group, what were your first thoughts?
It was not a surprise to me. I know Zach quite well, and he'd been avoiding me the last couple of weeks, so I knew that he was sort of working through that decision because generally he's throwing barbs and poking fun at me as he likes to do. But he addressed the group yesterday morning before we sort of went out and did our craft session, and honestly, we were speaking off camera. It was one of the absolute best retirement speeches that I've ever heard. His sincerity, his genuine gratitude, and unequivocally love for this footy club. It was so beautifully said, and it really sort of made me appreciate him as a player, and even more so as a person, because we came to this footy club together near on 9 years ago, and the journey that we've shared, and the role that he's played in my career is something that I can't quite quantify, to be honest with you. He's supported me through some dark times. I've supported him. We've won a premiership together. It's a friend that I will hold very close to my heart post footy. So it was a very emotional moment for a lot of us, and myself in particular, being a big sook that I am.
We spoke in segment 1, and I tried to convey my impression of Zach, which is obviously not nearly as intimate as yours from around the club, but it's so evident his contribution to the feel of the place and who we are. And Lingy noted that we're unfortunately a couple of our, I guess, cultural custodians are retiring at the end of the year. I'm interested in how you see that, how to be, what the Geelong way is, passed on first to Zach, and then how Zach passes that on to the next generation, and how that'll continue even though these legends are retiring.
Yeah, you can't replace a person like Zach or a person like Tom, because they're just such amazing people. But the thing that I've learnt of Zach is he's got that fantastic balance of being an amazing contributor and a ruthless competitor on field. Mm-hmm. But as we all know who have had dealings with him, he has such a jovial nature. He enjoys himself as much as anybody. He's as hard as himself as anybody I've ever seen, and he wants to win, and he has that genuine will to win, and his ability to get the absolute utmost out of his body and his skill and his talent coming from a different code is something that I don't think can be underappreciated, the contribution that he's had to the game, let alone our footy club. Irish Games record holder, his ability to go from a lockdown defender to a genuine gun-off halfback who was so penetrating with his ball use to, going to a wing and going forward. And he has so many facets to his game that I think are just so heavily underrated. And you can't replace him off field because he's so unique. He's an amazing person. He, as I said, has that great balance of having fun, but Jesus, he cares. He'll be the first to wrap his arm around somebody. He has amazing, obviously, connection with the Irish boys, but his balance of being able to connect with myself as a senior player, Hawk, and he can go and have a coffee with Lawson Humphreys or Jai Clark. Like, he has that amazing attribute of being able to just be a connector, which we are going to miss. We're going to be poorer as a footy club, but hopefully he's left his impression on so many that we can pick up the pieces.
He absolutely will have left a wonderful legacy. Going right back to the start just for 2 seconds, could you imagine? I mean, I had to move a grand total of, or drive 5 minutes down the road. You had to go about 8 minutes.
Yep.
Had to fly over the other side of the world to take this huge risk to play a sport that was pretty foreign. I know that obviously we spoke before about the fact there had been trailblazers and the understanding of the Irish and AFL was better, but it's still a massive risk to play a game he is pretty foreign to him.
Yeah, absolutely enormous. And everyone's journey is unique. Everyone's story is unique, but his resilience, you ask him, he was dead and gone in 2020. Like, his knee was cooked. He was getting fluid drained from his knee. He could barely walk post-game. Like, he almost had to throw the towel in. Just the sheer will and the sheer spirit to continually turn up and then get the ultimate in his 250th game on grand final day. And that photo of him with the Portlaoise flag draped over his shoulders is one of my absolute favourites. And he gives me such great confidence that the later in your career you go, same as Hawk as well, that you can still contribute to a team, which it's hard not to get buoyed by that feeling and that sensation that you see blokes like that who just, squeeze every ounce out of their body to contribute to this footy club. That's a legacy in itself. And it's something that it's so awesome to see. And, I love speaking about Zach because he's a close friend, and I could talk all day about him because I just love him.
All right, we'll pivot. We'll stay away from you just for another couple of questions. And we'll pivot from the plays at the end of their career to the ones at the start. We've noted on the weekend that Lawson had a fantastic game off halfback, particularly in the first half. And Sean Mannor's been really, I think, however many weeks straight as, a 2-goal contribution. How do you see those guys, their form and what they're bringing to the footy club at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that we acknowledge those. We're speaking about Zach, who has a unique pathway to AFL football. You look at Shawnee and Lawson in a similar light. I think, June last year, Lawson was playing Waffle reserves, played 6 senior Waffle games, and now he's a staple in our AFL team, and I honestly can't see him getting out for the next 10, 15 years. His footy nous and his temperament is something that I truly admire. He backs himself in. He's unbelievably brave. He reminds me of, not in stature, but the way that Lockie Henderson used to go back with the flight and just completely open his ribs up. I just cringe every time I see it because I'm like, mate, just get a better technique. But his impact that he's had on the group is been unbelievable. I mean, I think we were lucky enough as a playing group and as a club to see it throughout the entire pre-season. To be fair, he probably had to bide his time for a lot longer than some of us anticipated. But as I said, once he came in, his temperament, his ball use, his understanding of what we're trying to achieve, and his execution, to be honest with you, is unbelievable. Like he's strong in the contest. He doesn't fumble. He's actually ambidextrous. He doesn't know what footy is. So it's an amazing skill to have as a young player to be able to back that in. So, his impact's been unbelievable. And then, Sean, that's one that it reminds me of Tom Atkins and myself as well, who, had to go on a different pathway. Sean obviously had to bide his time for a lot longer than we did, but he was a star VFL player for so long, and we're not surprised that, his output on game day has been what it has been, because he's got a young child, he's adapting to fatherhood for the first time, but his attitude and his willingness to just compete, to play the role that we ask him, his competitiveness, his toughness over the ball is so underrated, I think. And I mean, I'm not surprised that he's playing so well because he was so dominant at VFL level for so long.
There are so many different phases players go through in their career, and this relates to the season we're currently in. So the players you're talking about there, Lawson, Sean Manor, throw in Jack Bowes. I know he's more advanced than that, but he's still newish to the club. Ollie Dempsey, who's had a wonderful season, but he's very early on in his career. The way you progress it, you want to get a game, and then you want to play well enough just to keep your spot in the team, and then you kind of start going, okay, I've got my spot in the team a little bit. How can I now influence the game a little bit more? How can I have a positive impact on the whole team and not just myself?
Yeah.
Then you're in your phase where obviously an incredible career so far, and you're a leader, experienced, you've seen and done a lot. How do you now, as we shift out of, or nearly out of home and away season, heading into finals, have to influence those young guys is, hey, the evenness of this competition, that if we all buy in and we all do certain things that the team needs, we got a shot at this. We got a genuine shot, and it's no longer about keeping your spot in the team or just getting a game. It's now got to be a wider outlook on things and how you can help the team potentially win a premiership.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think footy in its nuance and its system has changed a lot over time. But I think the thing that I want to instill in these young boys is it comes back to the day-to-day. It comes back to the way that you're sort of coming into the club, the things you're working on, the things that you're addressing at training or in craft or in your touch sessions. And then we just want those boys to go out and express themselves. Whenever, and this has been as long as I've been at this footy club, you're never going to hold a bloke, over the barrel for having a skill error or going after what they see the game or the way they want to approach it, because each player in this group has such unique tendencies and such unique things that they can bring to the club that we want to bring to the fore, and we want them to celebrate, and we want to see the things that they think they're good at, because that's what makes them good players. So yes, there's nuance and there's system and there's some things that we expect as our game is like to be played, but we want to see Lawson taking kicks through the middle. We want to see Shawnee taking 2 bounces and kicking a goal. Like, we want to see that from those young boys as much as we want to see Jez kicking goals from the boundary or Pat busting through 10 blokes. Like, we just want to see everyone's strengths come to the fold and what they bring and what they think they're good at. Like, we want to see that as much as we possibly can. So that's what we're just trying to implore with our young players, and we just back them in. We just have to. There's 23 of us out there. It's not left up to 1 or 2.
Speaking about influence, obviously a lot has been made about your positional change.
This will be good.
No.
Got to talk about yourself now, Siri.
I want to answer the direct ones. Maybe this is, I'm just fascinated by how a positional change on the ground might enable or change your ability to influence as a leader. Have you seen any difference in being behind the ball a lot of the time and instructing everything ahead of you. How is that different to the opportunity come centre bounce to assert yourself with your footy straight off the bat? Has that been any different, or is it the same?
I think it's been really cool for me to have that positional change and experience a different part of the ground. I've played a lot of footy behind the ball now in my career, and to have that opportunity to move up into the midfield, albeit in a slightly different role, has been one that I've really relished. It was probably due for me to just experience a different line in the ground. I'd trained for different parts of the pre-season through the midfield, but was sort of a break class in case of emergency sort of thing. So the opportunity to come around the ball was something that I sort of jumped at, to be honest with you. And you speak about directing the play and setting up from behind the ball and the like. It's pretty similar around the ball, because you sort of, unless you're a forward, you still have the game in front of you. I'm still able to cover off exits and articulate sort of the boys around the ball how I can help and cover, and that's been something that I just sort of have naturally kept going on with. It's just more so around the bash and crash and utilising my strengths and the things that Kingy and the boys want me to do around the ball, and then they've just given me such great freedom to just play to my strengths and again just bring those things that I think that I'm good at around the ball and help out. And the one thing that I've enjoyed the most is working with Pat in a game style sense rather than just in the leadership capacity and speaking about those sort of things. It's like, let's actually get to the nitty gritty of the game and work with Tom Atkins and help Tanner Bruin and even Ted Closey when he's come in, and Jai Clark, like working through some techniques, and they've taught me things, and then I've tried to impart some of my wisdom. So it's been really, really cool, and it's given me a breath of fresh air, and I've really enjoyed it.
We are enjoying watching it, by the way. You've very kindly come straight off the training track, so I don't want to hold you too much more. I know you've got some recovery to do and all that attention to detail. Exactly. I'll ask you one more about this weekend, though. The Cats fans listening, obviously keen to get as many as possible to come down, celebrate the game, the last home and away game, but also Tom Hawkins will have a role to play. And the last time we'll see him at GMHBA Stadium, also now Zach as well. So just come down and have a whole lot of fun and a great Saturday afternoon. You can't help but know that there's in two weeks after that, finals is there and it's September, and your mind can drift there. How does the group narrow its focus down to, okay, we want to do that stuff in September, but we got a job to do first. Let's just win this one and play our very best football in this game. Yeah,
I think that's the temptation is obviously there to future forecast and look forward to what we may potentially have in front of us. But I think we don't have to look too far back to understand that you can let your attention wane, or if you don't have that attention to detail or the right attitude towards football, teams can cut you up. So we as a midfield line and as a midfield group know that their strength is around the ball. Elliot Yeo, Tim Kelly, Holly Reid, they're very good players. If we allow them to dictate on their terms what they're good at, the game's going to be really difficult. So I think we as a line and myself as a midfielder and as a leader, we have to start the game extremely well. We have to impose what we think is the way to play the game on those boys and ask if they're ready to actually go with us in that part of the game. So that's the attitude that we have to take into it, is we look no further than the first 10 or 15 minutes. If we set the game up, it may not look like that on the scoreboard, but if we set the game up the way that we want to play it, that's what we have to do. And we actually have to carry some really good form into the final series, because we sort of let ourselves down in that second half on the weekend. Well, can't wait to see you do all of that on Saturday, 1:45, I think it is. Traditional time slot. Yes, it's fantastic. Good luck for the game. Good luck for the final series ahead of that or after that game. Thank you so much for coming in for a chat today. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey Cats fans, it's Darcy Maloney here. AFLW is back. Get behind the Cats as we take on the Demons in our opening game this Saturday, the 31st of August at GMHBA Stadium. Head to ticketmaster.com.au to secure your ticket today. Go Cats. Welcome back. It is great to have you with us. On to the final bell, brought to you by GMHBA. Great to chat with Tom Stewart in that last segment. The last question was about this week's game.
He's previewed for us.
Yes. Let's dive into it a little bit, though. As I always say, each week we do this, Meg. Keep an eye out for the GMHBA health update.
Yes.
For more specific stuff, because Tanner Bruin, we can assume that he's right to go. He will certainly have cleared the time frame for the concussion protocols, but still a number of testing that needs to take place. It would be great to have him back, get that game in, then with the bye before the finals, and can hit finals hopefully in really good form.
Absolutely. It's been an unfortunately interrupted season for him, hasn't it? He's just sort of had the odd one game out here and there, and then obviously with the arm, hand, wrist. Yeah, wrist. For a little longer. But whenever he's out, I look at the game and I think, oh, it would be nice to have a little turn of speed in the midfield. So hopefully he joins the crew and gets to work with Stewie and the like.
As Stewie said, that midfield really setting the tone of the game is so important, because that's where West Coast strengths lie. And I think we've often spoken about it, when you have the right attitude from the start and you just really ruthless in your approach to the game against teams that you should effectively have a win against, given the positions on the ladder. If you start well and if you set a tone and if it is the real feel of the game, you can make it an easier day for yourself in the long run, as opposed to keeping them with you and letting them build their confidence, and hopefully that's the way the Cats start. Sam de Koning probably still out for round 24. Then obviously throw in the bye. Hopefully he'll be available for that first final. A number of players continue to put up the hand, Meg, in the VFL. They continue to play great footy. The Cats knocked off Sandringham. We don't have details yet about their first final, which will be against Werribee, because of... So it's a play-in game.
I think it's a play-in. Yes, okay. I was chatting to some VFL guys last night. We had a crossover, and they said that disappointing game the week before against the Blues, but felt like they found themselves again on the weekend. And I said I should know this, but is the final structure the same? He said no. There's play-in games for 7, 8, 9, 10.
So I think testing, maybe just testing the waters for what they continue to just bring up occasionally for the AFL as well. Mitch Hardy, as he has done every single week, it feels like, just says, here's my name. I want you to consider me every week. And no doubt the coaches would be continuing to consider him. He hasn't quite broken through yet, but not through a lack of trying. And should anything happen in finals, he's clearly shown he is absolutely ready to go.
I reckon these guys would be thinking, obviously, we're a chance at VFL level as well. Yeah, you want to perform your best to put your hand up for AFL selection, no doubt, for the ones that are listed. But any chance at a premiership's one worth pursuing, and they'd be getting excited in their own right.
Yeah, it's a great call, because that opportunity for success as a team, and I think back to my time, and I think it was the 2012 premiership they won, VFL, then 2007 premiership, way back in 2002 premiership.
There were some pretty big names in that one, weren't there?
Yeah, some huge, and they still get together. They still have reunions, still have catch. So that draw and that tying together from any premiership is still so important. So you're absolutely right with that. But as we put our focus to the AFL team, obviously Brandon Parfitt as well will continue to put his hand up, and a number of players keen to be involved at any level, hopefully in two premierships,
exactly.
which would be very, very nice. AFLW has the weekend off, the bye before the big first round clash. Is that an off weekend for you, or is it a high training load weekend?
It's a low training load, feel good, touch the footy, kicking a catch, lunch at Meg's house afterwards.
Oh, yeah. Nice work, Skipper.
That's leadership there, Lingy. You know about that. Do I have to think about that this afternoon? Yes, I do, but that's okay.
That's okay. That's going to be your focus.
I think that's a word I've got to get familiar with. So.
Well, that's brilliant. We will be back next week, obviously, to talk about the West Coast game that the Cats are taking part in Saturday afternoon, 1:45 here at GMHBA Stadium. We will talk about how
the upcoming game,
how well you cater for the girls, for 30. Oh, good work. And then the AFLW season kicks off the following week. The pre-finals bye for the men's. The VFL finals. We'll talk about all of that next week when we're back together.
Sounds good. You coaching any finals?
Is that a thing? Under 12s and under 10s don't have finals. Okay. So my junior footy is finished.
It's done.
And we were quite relieved about that. But now that it's here, it's like, what do we get the kids to do? It was a great activity.
7:30 Saturday night might be past their bedtime, but 31st, I'll see you there.
They will be there for sure. Thank you, Meg. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll be back next week.